Good morning, Saints. How are you doing on this phenomenal Tuesday morning? I interviewed Margaret Barker one time from England, and I said that in front of her face, and she laughed at me. She thought it was funny. But anyways, Hayden is back in the studio. How you doing?
What up, guys? Good to be here.
Again, we did not get rid of Brandon. He's in Florida, so calm down. He'll be back soon enough. But we've got a banger of an episode to start your day on this beautiful Tuesday, okay? Groundbreaking discoveries are happening on the science front on the differences between male and female. I'm telling you, no one's ever discovered these things that they're discovering just now, and it's going to have a heavy effect on the Olympics, I'll tell you what. And then what's the solution for people that can't afford houses right now? Let's just extend the amount of time that they're in debt. That's a good idea. And then on to our featured story. Some teachers are wising up about how to solve the overusage of cell phones in school to better promote education and learning. And I think it's a great idea and scripturally backed. All this and more. My name is Jackson Wayne, and welcome to Latter Daily Saints. So if you tuned into one of our episodes last week, we had our boy from the Rodcast. Yes, that's a real name to a real social channel.
Name for a social media channel.
Okay, our boy Roy Anderson and his brother Ket, they do this awesome channel, and he just has so much energy. He reached out to me. He's like, yo, I want to highlight some amazing Latter-day Saints. And so he sent us a video. We haven't watched it yet, but apparently he's reacting to an awesome Latter-day Saint that has some special talents. And we're just going to react to it live just to get things going. And then we'll move into our headlines and our featured story. Hayden, if you want to pull it up here.
Real quick, we do not endorse whatever's about to happen on camera.
I guess we maybe should watch these before, but it's kind of fun. We're watching it together at the same time. So go ahead and pull that up, HP.
Bro, have you seen this? There's nothing I love more than looking at somebody where life dealt them a crappy hand, and they still took home the pot, dude. Let me show you what I mean. Hold up.
Dude, he only has
So
one
first off,
hand.
beautiful takedown, but look at his left arm.
Whoa. Oh my gosh.
So I was like, this guy is awesome, but even if you asked him, you know what's more dope? You know what's even cooler? Yeah, he's a member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. Oh, you think that maybe that's not cool enough? Well, brace yourself, buddy. He's a dad. We got a whole family of supers. Holy cow!
That's epic.
He has so many videos of himself fighting and stuff. He's dope. He's got a great personality. I've been able to shoot some messages back and forth with him. Give this dude his freaking flower. And if life knocks you down, bro, if you're playing the game of poker, the life game of poker, and life gives you a 2 and a 7, bro, lock in, dude, and do it through Christ. Maybe the poker analogy is actually not very good here. You know, we're all members of the church here. But in all reality, this guy's awesome. So chase your dreams no matter what, and don't forget Jesus, baby. I'm out.
Dude, that is insane. An MMA fighter, dude, you're gonna love his name. His name on Instagram is KingKnubMMA.
KingKnub, no way. That is so awesome.
Can you imagine getting choked out or knocked out by a guy with only one hand? That's crazy. That's wild.
Epic, dude. That was cool. Rodcast is an absolute baller.
God bless you, Roy, for that. Everyone go give Rodcast and KingKnubMMA a follow because they're both beasts. Thank you for that, Roy. God bless you. Now, moving into our first headline. Hayden, I couldn't believe this discovery, dude. I couldn't believe this discovery, and honestly, because it's so absurd, we're just going to read the Twitter headline. But that Daily Mail link, you got that pulled up here?
Yep.
Okay. Daily Mail says, Olympics set to ban all transgender athletes from female events after finding scientific evidence of advantages to being born male.
Oh my goodness.
Can you believe that?
Holy cow. So what sort of scientific evidence exists that men and women are different?
I have no idea, but essentially, and you can go read the article if you want, kind of a waste of time, but this all came about because of transgender powerlifters, which I can't even believe that they would find a difference.
I know, it's crazy. It's in the places you expect the least to see it, you know what I mean?
Exactly. It's so strange.
Crazy.
Anyways, moving on to our next headline. We're so dumb, dude. Moving on to our next headline, if you click on that CNBC.com one, again, you know, if you're coming to Latter-day Saints, we don't care what news source we're getting it from. We're going to read the headlines. We're going to look into it and just look into it from a gospel perspective. So everyone's like, CNBC is not a credible source. I don't care. We're just going to read it.
Hey, if you haven't found out, if you haven't listened to our episode from yesterday, guess what? None of them are credible. None of them are credible sources anyway.
Well, none of them are unbiased, I'd say.
Unbiased. Okay.
None of them are. There's some credible sources out there.
Yeah.
Okay? And Latter-day Saints is one of them. But we use uncredible sources. It says Trump proposes 50-year mortgage, but some say homeowner savings would be minimal. Okay. Now, there's obviously a huge, what would you say, epidemic in the United States of people like myself or Hayden, our age, not being able to afford homes. And there's a lot of people that maybe back in the early 2000s or 90s purchased their homes or property for like 7 raspberries and a handshake, which is cool. I'm happy for you. That's awesome. And then prices of houses have like quintupled since then. And the problem is the earning hasn't quintupled at the same rate. So it's a little bit difficult. But the solution being presented in a social media post by the Honorable Mr. Trump of a 50-year mortgage is a little bit troubling. But let's just look into it a little bit. So if you scroll down, it says in that second paragraph, it says the purpose of a longer term mortgage would be to lower the monthly payment for homeowners. The longer the term of the loan, the smaller the principal needed each month to pay it off in full. But such a plan has other trade-offs. Using the latest median sale price of a home from September, $415,200, according to the National Association of Realtors, and the current interest rate of about 6.3%, according to Mortgage News Daily, on a 30-year fixed loan with a 20% down payment, the monthly payment of just principal and interest would be $2,056.
And hey, real quick, of that $2,056, probably $80 is actually paying the principal. All of it is interest.
Which is pretty crazy, which you should look into bi-monthly payments on your mortgage if you have a mortgage. There's a lot of ways to pay that principal down faster. But it says if you raise the length to 50 years at the same interest rate, that payment would be $1,823, a savings of $233 per month. Homeowners, however, would not build equity as quickly because their principal payments would be smaller. The amount of interest paid to lenders would be 40% higher.
That's a lot. 40% is a lot.
40% is a lot. But guess what? People are going to look at that and be like, heck yeah, I'm saving $233 a month. Sign me up for 20 more years of debt. That's going to be awesome. When, here's the thing, they just want to make money off of you. They just want to make money off of you. They don't care about helping you to afford a house. They really don't care at all. If they had it their way, all of these corporations would buy up all the single family homes, and then you would own nothing, and then they would rent it to you at absorbently high prices. And that's kind of what's happening around the world if you haven't paid attention. But yeah, I don't know. When I read this, Hayden, it just seemed pretty problematic to me because like the mortgage industry, obviously they just want to make money off of us. So it's not like this is going to go that much more towards our interest, our actual, like, our well-being. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah, so I looked into this actually last night when it first popped up. So I didn't know a lot about this, so I'm just going to give mortgages for dummies for people. So when you get a mortgage that's like a 7% rate, what happens is they're going to front load your payments. So they're going to say, oh, you're going to pay this for 30 years. This is how much you need to pay a month. But the problem is during the first like 10 years of your $2,000 a month, only 90% of it is going to pay the actual mortgage so that you get equity in your home.
Wait, 90%?
Not 90%, $90. That's way worse than 90%, is going to actually pay down your mortgage, and the rest of it is just interest. So they front load the interest on the mortgage, and it isn't until like year 15 or 20 that it actually switches and you're paying more down on the principal than the interest. So these 50-year mortgages probably won't even work though, because it is really risky for a bank to do this, because if you buy a home and you're just paying interest and you don't have any equity, and then you sell off after 10 years, most people aren't staying in their homes for 50 years. So the reason they're able to give you rates at 15 years and 30 years is because it's more reasonable that someone will stay in a home that long.
Yeah.
But if you're buying a home when you're 30 years old, the probability you're going to stay in it till you're 80 to pay that whole loan off is pretty low. And so it's more risky. So honestly, I think this is Donald Trump sitting on the toilet late at night and he's like, you know what? Maybe we could fix this if we did 50 years.
Let me send this out to the Ethernet and see what people say. That's probably a good portion of all the tweets that he sends out. I don't think that it goes through a filter.
No, it is late night toilet tweeting.
Possibly. Donnie J, I know you're watching Latter-day Saints, so if you could comment down below, let us know kind of the insights of your tweeting process. That would be really fun. But yeah, the solution for this, I don't know. I just guess we just gotta work harder, you know? I say that a little facetiously because obviously the stakes are kind of stacked against us a little bit, but I personally, I'm going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
You know what I'm saying? We'll figure it out one way or another. All right. We're going to move into our featured story here, which I was gassed up to see. Okay. NPR coming out with another awesome headline. It says, should we all start locking up our phones? ? And just starting off at the beginning, it says, does your phone feel like a blessing or a burden? Either way, there's probably a lot you can learn from new phone bans. Many K through 12 students are going phone free, but not by choice. In over half the country, there are now restrictions on cell phone possession and use in class. The goal is to increase student focus and enhance learning. But when you think about school shootings, phones have been a big part of parents' safety plans for their kids. So are phone bans the best solution? And what do these policies teach all of us about the role phones play in our lives? So kind of some pretty wild topics to even be talking about here, right? The increased amount of phone usage in school, basically making a lot of kids less smart because they're super distracted all day long. And also there is unfortunately a way too high amount of school shootings. And so obviously communication between parents and children is super important. But just talking about the subject of taking away phone usage, limiting phone usage during class and stuff like that, I think back to like the time that I was going to school, and I feel like it was just when I was getting out of middle school that flip phones and those Sidekick slider phones and Blackberries were just going out of style, and then iPhones were becoming the new thing. And a lot of times parents, teachers didn't really know how to handle that. And so every once in a while when a kid would repeatedly be on his phone, he would get it taken away and stuff like that. But on a mass scale like this, it's very interesting, and I'd love to see some data. From this article, it doesn't look like they have provided like some solid data, but I just think I think about this all the time, especially when studying the scriptures. I cannot have productive study of the scriptures on my phone. Like me personally, I don't know. How do you feel about it, Hayden?
Yeah, no. Me and my wife actually have started something. This is a good Latter-day Daily Saint topic. My wife and I have started to leave our phones at home during church, and I'll tell you, like the last 3 weeks that I've done this, like it's weird. I used to feel, I'm dead serious, and we've talked about this, you and I used to feel like intense anxiety while I was in church. Like always like, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here, get out. And I don't know why, because I love the gospel. I love talking about the gospel. I love taking the sacrament, all that. The last 3 weeks that I haven't had my phone on me, I have not felt any of that anxiety. It's crazy.
Really?
And I really do believe that it's like these phones, especially in an environment that's supposed to be peaceful, where you should be paying attention, where you should be present, and it's always sitting there. It's just like stressing you out. So I'd highly recommend everyone watching, leave your phones at home for church, and guess what? They still do this.
They still sell those? What is that?
They still print paper versions of the Book of Mormon and the Bible. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, I just think about when you go to the temple, you turn off your phone. I leave it in my car. And when I served as an ordinance worker in the Draper Temple, it was phenomenal because I had a guaranteed like 5 hours every Saturday morning where I would be free from my phone, and they build in little study times in your rotation of what you're doing in the temple. You get like 2 30-minute sessions of just study in the celestial room, and it's phenomenal. And no, I haven't tried that. I just turn my phone on Do Not Disturb and put it underneath the pew. But no, maybe I should try that.
I recommend it, dude.
I'll be honest. Sometimes I've been checking your location. I thought you just haven't been going to church, bro. Yeah.
Just like Aiden's going in.
I was like, what's going on with HB?
Yeah, no, I highly recommend it, and it makes it just like, for example, you go into elders quorum early, and instead of like being on your phone waiting for elders quorum to start, you like look around, and you can like talk to people if you want.
Whoa.
I know.
Okay, one step at a time. One step at a time. But no, it's really interesting, and it makes me think of like these guys in the scriptures. They didn't have these things buzzing in their back pocket. Like one story that I always think of is the story of Enos and how he went into the wilderness to hunt beasts, it says, and that he prayed all day long for a remission of his sins. Actually, let me just open that here.
Yeah, I don't know which chapter it's in Enos that you're talking about, but I know it's in Enos somewhere.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to find the right chapter. I'm in Enos right now.
You're trying to find the right chapter.
Enos, Jeremiah, Words of Mormon. Is it bad that I still have to sing the song to figure out where I'm going in the Book of Mormon?
Yeah. Hey, so those tab things on the side, so it says Eno?
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. The Book of Enos, chapter 1. I forgot it was in the first chapter. But it says in verse 2, it says, "And I will tell you of the wrestle which I had before God before I received a remission of my sins. Behold, I went to hunt beasts in the forest, and the words which I had often heard my father speak concerning eternal life and the joy of the saints sunk deep into my TikTok algorithm. I kept scrolling and seeing more and more reels of influencers talking about," no, I'm just kidding. No, it says it sunk deep into his heart, and he says, "And my soul hungered, and I kneeled down before my Maker, and I cried unto him in mighty prayer and supplication for mine own soul. And all the day long did I cry unto him. Yea, and when the night came, I did still raise my voice high, that it reached the heavens." So when talking about the phone usage and stuff like that, the reason that this experience comes to my mind is because I'm like, I've a couple times gone to the forest to pray, but when I have my phone, like I feel like any moment, like it's going to get interrupted and like something else important is going to come up, or someone's going to call me, someone's going to need me. And like, even though if I'm trying to focus on being connected with God and to commune with him, there's just something about it. There's just something about, like kind of what you're talking about, Hayden, this weird, unexplainable anxiety. But I just don't think that Enos, he could have spent the whole day long praying and crying unto the Lord and wrestling for a remission of his sins if he had this distraction of his phone buzzing every 2 seconds, or, he was taking a break when he got bored to, scroll through the reels or go on TikTok and stuff like that. And sometimes I look around at church and I just see the masses on their phones and things like that. And some of the best sacrament meetings I've ever been to is when the speaker is actually talking about Jesus Christ, and you look around and people are invested. Everyone is looking and watching, and it adds a whole different element to the spirit of the meeting when you know that everyone's bought in and they're anxiously waiting for the next word to come out of the speaker's mouth so that they can continue to learn and feel the Spirit more. It's happened on a few occasions, and I think as a church abroad, we could benefit greatly from highly limiting our cell phone usage, or maybe even doing what Hayden's suggesting that works for him, right? Is leaving his phone at home. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, viewer?
Can I read something real quick? So
yes,
this is in 2 Timothy chapter 3. This is one, I don't know if you talked about it on the show, but I know you and I have talked about it recently. Just talking about the last days, the perilous times that we're in. So I'll just read these verses. It's chapter 3, verses 1 through 7. This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth.
Yeah, we shared that during our AI episode. It's
Yeah,
good.
and so I just feel like right there, these phones allow us to be ever learning without coming to the knowledge of the truth. And I think that they really are a gateway into, unnatural affection, into, obviously lust, coveting, boasting. Like, these are portals to hell, and we carry them with us in our pockets.
Yeah. And obviously, there's really good uses for them. And all we're suggesting here in begging the question is, could our worship be more productive on Sundays if we were to dispel with that anxiety and distraction and just go fully wanting to dive in to whatever's being discussed? Maybe. I'm grateful for my own mother, Leslie Paul. Maybe if you're watching this, I know you are. She watches the premieres every day. God bless her. If you see Leslie Paul 4258 in the comments saying something mean to you, look, I'm sorry. She's just being a mom.
Let's see if she is listening. Hey, Mom, if you are listening right now, I want you to text us banana apple monkey cherry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Hayden, to completely distract. But I'm grateful for my mom because she's like, look, family dinners on Sunday, we're putting our phones in the cabinet and we're just going to enjoy time together. And it's been phenomenal. So I just invite you to commune with God, see what's going to work best for you to more fully approximate yourself to God during not just your sacrament meetings and your Sunday worship, but during the week as well when you're at home with your family. I know I can do a whole lot better. Moving on to our final segment where we're going to get scripturally based. Guys, is it just me, or all growing up, did you kind of get queasy? Hayden, I'll ask you this. Did you kind of get a weird queasy feeling whenever you saw someone wearing a cross, or you saw a cross on a building, or anything when you saw the cross?
Yeah, well, I don't know about queasy, but it seemed like a different religion.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's a different religion than mine. We don't wear crosses in my religion.
Exactly. And that was the kind of vibe that I grew up with, and honestly had a real weird reaction to whenever I saw people were teaching on our mission that would wear a cross or would get baptized and then continue to wear their cross. And I would just have this weird feeling around it. And I feel like there is a weird culture that permeates the Latter-day Saints around the cross. And as I looked into it more, it's kind of a little bit silly. There's an awesome guy named John Hilton III that wrote an amazing book called Consider the Cross. And he just kind of goes into the huge symbolic significance that the cross has as Christians. And in going into this discussion, I want to watch this little clip. He basically is talking with Stephen Jones, who is a phenomenal man, talking with Stephen Jones about kind of the history of the cross and how even on Latter-day Saint buildings, early church buildings, they would have crosses on them. And actually, Hayden, before we jump into it, if you want to pull up that image of the 1852 version of the Doctrine and Covenants, it had the symbol of the cross on the front. The European edition had the symbol of the cross. And so the early saints, they weren't averse to necessarily putting the cross on our buildings and stuff. But it wasn't until, we have a big kind of Protestant history background. And when the Catholics started moving into the Salt Lake Valley, especially, and building their churches with crosses on them and crucifix, then the Latter-day Saints, to differentiate from the Catholics, stopped putting crosses on buildings. And after some pretty fiery sermons after that of why we don't use the symbol of the cross on our buildings and stuff, this weird culture kind of permeated out amongst the saints, and it still exists today a lot. And so leading into this clip, he's basically talking about a talk that Elder Holland recently gave about the cross. And then he talks about this weird culture that permeates the Latter-day Saints. So if you want to play that, HP.
Elder Holland said, as I attempt to explain why we generally do not use the iconography of the cross, I wish to make abundantly clear our deep respect and profound admiration for the faith-filled motives and devoted lives of those who do. So even though we're not talking about the cross, we're talking about the crucifixion, Stephen, can I just share something that is concerning to me?
Yeah.
This happened 3 weeks ago, so it's a little fresh on my mind. There's a college student, a dear family friend who I love. She's at the temple with her friend. She's seeking for some solace, some comfort, and some challenging times that they're going through. They're waiting to do confirmations, and her friend is wearing a cross necklace. A temple worker comes up to them and says, "You can't do confirmations because you're wearing a cross necklace."
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding. It brings tears to my eyes as I think about it, because
Are you serious?
Are we trying to drive people away from the church? I'm confident that this temple worker was doing the very best that he could. And I definitely don't want to disparage him or anyone else.
Yeah.
I just think it's important that we realize that culturally, these types of criticisms can be so hurtful to someone who's trying to connect to the Savior. And unfortunately, this is not an isolated incident. I was recently talking to another young adult. He was preparing to bless the sacrament, and the Elders Quorum president looked over and saw he was wearing a cross ring and said, "Hey, you can't help prepare the sacrament when you're wearing that ring." There is nothing in the handbook, there's nothing in authorized teachings that says, you are forbidden to wear a cross necklace when you're doing a temple ordinance. And just to be clear, I am not encouraging everyone to go out and buy a cross necklace.
Interesting. Hayden, what are your reactions to that?
I just think that we've come up with really good reasons for why we don't use the cross. Mm-hmm. In the sense of, like, I don't know about all you guys listening, but the one I've always used is we like to focus on the resurrection of Jesus rather than his death.
The risen Lord, yeah.
Yeah. And I just I don't understand why we can't focus on both. It seems like this false dichotomy of, like, the resurrection is important in the first place because of his death on the cross. Mm-hmm. You don't have a resurrection without a death. And also the courage and the love unfeigned from Christ to step up to that cross and be crucified is what gives value to the resurrection. Mm-hmm. It's what makes him the risen Lord, is that he carried that cross and that yoke on his shoulders so that we can be saved. Mm-hmm. So I think that we don't need to have a false dichotomy of either or. I think it can just be and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. And I served my mission in Lisbon, Portugal, and there's a huge Catholic presence there. And I heard this example one time from a missionary that now thinking about it makes me cringe. And we were having a conversation about, why don't we use the cross? And this missionary is like, well, imagine if you have a best friend and he gets killed by an AK-47. Are you going to go buy a necklace that has an AK-47 on it to remember your friend? And I'm like, at the time I was like, yeah, you're right, bro. But then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, because after I saw this interview with John Hill III, I too was like kind of still had this weird feeling around the cross and things like that. And I thought about it, and then I started thinking about my temple covenants that I, did in my endowment, and so much. Think about it. For those of you that have been through the temple and have gone through your endowment, so much revolves around specific events that happened upon that cross. Think about it. And then I think about verses in Matthew chapter 16, verse 24. It says, "Then said Jesus unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." And in this interview, John Hill III talks about how there's over 50 instances in which in Scripture it's referenced that Jesus died for our sins on the cross. And there's only 2 overtly in the Doctrine and Covenants and in Mosiah chapter 3 or Mosiah chapter 2, I can't remember, that it refers to Jesus suffering for our sins in the Garden of Gethsemane. And so I agree with what you're saying, Hayden. It doesn't have to be an either or. It can be this and. And I do think that we should, be happy about the fact that the tomb is empty and that Jesus is risen, right? And that you can wear things like Hayden's wearing on his chest of the necklace of the
Christus.
The Christus. And I got this cross necklace made out of 3 nails in Jerusalem because I'm like, it helps me remember my temple covenants, and it helps me remember every single day I need to put on my cross and follow Jesus Christ. I need to take up the things that are very difficult in my life and sometimes impede me from following Jesus, and I just need to put it behind me, and I need to march forward. And I'm really curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this subject, because I think that unfortunately, like with situations that he's describing here, have happened all too often. And even I've been approached and be like, what, so are you Catholic now? And I'm like, no, I just worship Jesus Christ, and I wear this because it helps me be reminded of the sacrifice that he did on my behalf and the temple covenants that I've made with him. So, I don't know. Any more to say on that, HP?
I was just going to say the AK-47 thing doesn't work because the thing is like Christ willingly took up the cross. He knew that he was going to be on that cross. Mm-hmm. And that's what gives it its power, is that he willingly did that. It wasn't someone who it happened to him and we're like mourning. We are grateful for him willingly taking on that sacrifice and then rising 3 days later.
That's awesome. Anyways, I'm really curious to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments below. Phenomenal episode. Well done, Hayden.
Thank
You're
you.
doing a great job. It's going to be so sad to kick you off the show forever when Brandon's back.
I know.
But remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not looking at the world through a gospel lens, you're only getting half the story. God bless you.